Tonight on News 5 Live, who cut the live stream of the Commission of Inquiry? Why are athletes mad at casinos? And why the sudden drop in hotel bookings? A day of many questions and only a few answers. Up next on News 5 Live.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Currently, we're using Smart Elite VoIP calling plan. We use it interbranch. We use it to call outside, and we also use it to call international. It's far cheaper than what we used to have before. Our equipment are new, PBX box is new. So the PBX is very good because I can call to my Sartaneja branch, I can call to my Kikaka branch, I can call to San Pedro branch, and there's no cost using the PBS. Actually right now, since we're in different locations, I can call main office from where I am at a no cost using the PBX system. I would recommend it, sure I would, especially the big enterprises who has a lot of employees. There's a lot of reduction in costs, 50% of saving. Put that on a year, it's a lot of money that we're saving. Money that we could return to our members since we give back dividend to our members.
Visit our showroom or call 670-6710 to find out how Smart's corporate plan and PBX systems can benefit your business. Consultation is free.
This newscast is brought to you by the Belize Bank Limited. Our country, your bank. Good evening. Welcome to News 5 Live for Thursday, April 15th. I am Sabrina Daly. The Commission of Inquiry has been adjourned indefinitely. That's because the union's representative, President of the NTUCB, Luis Luke Martinez, excused himself and informed the chairman that they wouldn't be participating further until things were resolved with the government. He gave that notice just before the live stream of his presentation was dramatically cut off. We'll hear from Chair Andrew Marshallek a little later on in the newscast. But first, we take a look at what transpired at the House of Culture during today's hearing of the Commission of Inquiry. Martinez kicked off today's proceedings reading a letter that the PSU penned to the Prime Minister. The strong statement condemned the government for continuing the, quote, fire sale of government assets without proper public disposal processes, unquote. He was to end his statement by recusing himself from the inquiry, but he didn't get to do that because the live feed via the government press office ended suddenly. To add further insult to injury, the video feed was also scrubbled from the Facebook page and is no longer available on that forum. Reporter Andrea Polanco tells us more about this morning's proceedings.
The PSU called for a commission of inquiry to investigate and address wrongdoings. We signed up in good faith with a view of exposing and holding wrongdoers accountable. We did not sign up for a political show that will be limited to name calling, political.
That was the abrupt end to the live stream of the Commission of Inquiry this morning. The audio was cut and video faded to black as Commissioner Luis Martinez, the union's representative, made a statement on behalf of the Public Service Union. The scathing remarks, which hit out at government's decision to sell assets without proper accountability, pushed someone to pull the plug on the live broadcast. Here's how Martinez began his strong criticism of the government.
The Public Service Union wishes to express its outright disappointment in the government of Belize for the mockery of the Commission as we continue to witness the fire sale of public assets while we are in this process.
Some of the assets Martinez speaks of, according to these documents dated February 22nd and 24th, 2021, include the approval of sale of 4 aircraft and 3 firearms from the police armory in Belmopan. These documents show that Prime Minister John Briceño, as Minister of Finance, approved the sale of unserviceable airplanes, 2 Grumman Gulfstream G2 and 2 Hawker Siddeley HS-125s for $540,000 to an aircraft mechanic identified as Gliss Marin. Also approved for sale on February 24th were the sales of 1 9mm pistol for $600 to Cayo Central's air representative Alex Balona, 1 Ruger brand bolt action rifle at cost of $1,200 was approved for CEO in the Ministry of Home Affairs Kevin Arthurs, and a 9mm Cherokee brand pistol for $500 to Denby Young. The documents were signed by Ruperto Vicente of the Vehicle Care Unit, the same man who appeared before the Commission of Inquiry and owned up to have mistakenly listed assets as unserviceable before. It is unclear if there was any bidding process for these items. Last Friday, Prime Minister John Briceño was asked about these sales.
This was brought to my attention to saying that this offer was made and that we should accept it. I don't sit down and ask, hey, did you do this, you do that? That has been brought to me and then I approved it. And could you let me finish, please. What we are trying to do right here now is that those planes have been out there and it's losing value every day. The BDF is telling me that one in particular, they have spent about $100,000 to take care of it in over a year. And so when they brought it up to my attention and said it's best to sell it, and I was under the impression that this was the best offer that we got. That is why then I approved it. Now, as to the issue of the guns, can we improve? Of course we could improve. Of course we could improve. I'm not infallible. I'm human.
But Martinez and by extension the PSU didn't buy the PM's "I'm only human" defense. Today, Martinez criticized government's lack of transparency and what they call abuse of power, slamming the offices of the Assets and Utilities Manager as well as the Financial Secretary for these decisions.
During the past 4 months, we have witnessed the sale of vehicles, aircrafts, and even guns for CEOs and ministers without proper public disposal process. We have seen whereby the assets and utility manager, acting via the office of the financial secretary, continue to abuse his power and discretion to render assets unserviceable, when in fact they are in good conditions.
Martinez went on for about 2 more minutes before he was cut off and the Commission of Inquiry ended before it even properly began. Martinez's closing words before the transmission was stopped expressed PSU's dissatisfaction with government's actions, calling out the Prime Minister John Briceño for championing the cause before he was elected, but who has now failed to do anything about it since he has been elected. Martinez called for the Ministry of Finance officials to be held responsible.
Mr. Prime Minister, on February 13, 2020, while you were the leader of opposition, you clearly stated that your party would have planned policies to break the cycle of skeptic corruption, to work for the betterment of this country. You must therefore understand your skepticism, in which is merited, unless you wish for us to forget the period 1998 to 2008. The abuse of the government assets currently stands in the millions of dollars, and it is time for all the key players in the Ministry of Finance to be held financially and criminally responsible. Enough is enough. We can no longer continue to stand the stench of the pit of corruption that exists when it comes to the sale of the people's assets.
Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
The media was waiting outside the House of Culture compound as the public announcement was being made by Commissioner Luke Martinez on behalf of the unions, causing the postponement of today's proceedings of the Commission of Inquiry. News 5's Dwayne Moody reports from Regent Street in Belize City.
In attendance at today's proceedings was former UDP Minister Anthony Boots Martinez, who was to appear before the Commission of Inquiry in reference to a Ford F-150 pickup truck that he purchased and which is being investigated as part of the fire sale of government assets under the Barrow administration. He was first to exit from the House of Culture and was stunned by what happened.
When the chairman started to sum up in terms of telling me the reason why that I'm asked to relieve myself because they cannot continue on, because without what you say, he cannot continue on without the union representative, and then they were cut. They were abruptly cut live. Obviously, they never maybe the government never canvassed the speech that Mr. Martinez would have done, and looked like the chairman never had the text of the speech, so it was run, and after he was finished, so that like the damage was already done.
The commissioners would then leave the compound, but Commissioner Luke Martinez and PSU First Vice President Dean Flowers did not mince words. Cut during or after his speech, Martinez says,
Enough is enough. Enough is enough. We, the unions, Public Service Union, requested for this commissioner inquiry into the sales of government assets because the people of Belize, the poor people of Belize, have been asking, why do we continue to sit back and allow government parliamentarians, people in high office, to be handling our assets in such manner? After listening to the first couple investigations and hearings, a lot of Belizeans have been rubbed terribly wrong. And in the height of this inquiry, we see that once again, this government here will start sell out the assets of the people without following the proper procedure. absolutely unacceptable. We're not getting leadership. We're getting dictators who believe they're entitled. Who believe they are entitled. I don't know if it's the manner in which they were grown, but who believe that they are entitled and that they can speak down to people. The minute the Prime Minister and his government took office, they knew they had to do the right thing. They knew they had to come in on a good governance platform. That is what they campaigned on. They gave us 100 days promise that they would implement and do the right thing. And what have we seen? Play by play, out of the Barrow administration corrupt playbook.
Martinez says the step is in support of the unions, who are currently at an impasse with the government over a salary cut and increment freeze for all public officers and teachers. Martinez says that the current situation goes back to previous administrations.
We don't reach out because of the last administration, neither. Because of not today, then better to sell out the people of Belize. But not today. Some people are arguing, I said, I find the time we get independence, in fact, even before that. When the worthless colonial people come to Belize, what they can do? Plunder, rape, kill.
So what's the next step going forward? Is this an end to the inquiry? Will the commissioners from the private sector, unions, and the government return to the table?
The Public Service Union refused to be a part of this sitting today in protest of what has been going on when it comes to the continuous sale of our government assets. We cannot continue in that manner. We always, a catchphrase from this administration is good faith. And we love the good faith conversation. In fact, we also walk upon that platform, the platform of good faith. Right, so that is where we are at right now. We are not saying that we're abandoning the ship. Okay. We are not jumping out of the ship. The ship continues to sail. Remember, no captain jump out our ship with a wreck. And so we are going to be here. We will be holding on to the rudders and ensure that this ship sails to the end. We want that they bring their people to justice.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
And now we turn to the chair of the Commission of Inquiry, Andrew Marshallek. He spoke to the media directly after the proceedings ended. Marshallek said he didn't even know the broadcast had been cut. He admitted that he wouldn't have gone about it that way. As a matter of fact, he said he saw nothing wrong with the unions voicing their opinion. The chairman told reporters that minutes before the live stream began, Martinez informed him that he would be making a statement and that he took a cursory look at the document. It is seen as an egregious stifling of free speech, an undemocratic move. So, who gave the order to cut the broadcast and to delete the video from the government press office Facebook? Marshallek said, "It wasn't me."
I wasn't aware that the broadcast had been cut. I was sitting there, we finished out what we were doing, and it was upon leaving I was informed that it was cut.
So you didn't give the order? You have...
No, I have nothing to do with that. And whoever cut it needs to explain why they cut it. Look, if the union has a view to express, they're free to express it in any event. I have no trouble with them expressing so long as their views, so long as it's done in a responsible and mannerly way, which it was. To be quite frank, when Mr. Martinez started and adverted to the sales by the government during the time, I too was very disappointed when that happened. I can't say that I would have put my objection in quite those terms or as strongly, but I wasn't happy to see that either. So I can't say that I'm entirely surprised by what was said or the position the unions took.
But you know that a directive has to come from the top of the political directorate.
I don't know any such thing, but what I'm telling you, in the normal case, if things work the way they normally do, I would expect that somebody gave an instruction. I don't know that what happened was within the realm of what would normally be expected to happen.
So it's not a public officer?
It could have been extraordinary. I'm not passing any judgment on that. From my point of view and from my perspective, there is an obligation to keep a public record of what happened. If it's been removed from the website, it really needs to be put back. It should not have been cut. I don't know who thought they had the authority to cut it. It should not have been cut. It's not a political show. It's a duly constituted commission of inquiry, which is obliged by law to conduct its proceedings in public. The public nature of it was compromised by what was done. I think if it were up to me, the feed should not have been cut. It wasn't my decision to make. I didn't make the decision. Somebody made it somewhere for some reason. They need to explain themselves.
The bold move taken by the Public Service Union spread like wildfire on social media, despite attempts taken to prevent its transmission. But are unions' efforts falling on deaf ears? Even as there have been consultations leading up to the budget presentation and options outside of salary cuts and increment freeze proposed by the unions, the government nevertheless have decided to go with its own decision.
The government have a mandate from the people, so they have to respond to the people.
Appropriately.
Thank you very much. Also, appropriately. We did a point where the ordinary Belizean man need to get things in a layman term. And if it is that we are start bringing things over in a layman term, like we go understand what happening in this country, sister, then continue to wonder if you are fall on deaf ear.
While we may never know who gave the order to cut off the live stream of the Commission of Inquiry proceedings today, what we do know is that the inquiry has been put off indefinitely. Well, that is until the unions and the government can come to an agreement. Marshall-elect told the press that he was informed by the union's rep, Luke Martinez of the NTUCB, that they wouldn't be participating in the inquiry until matters are resolved with GOB.
We had decided that the quorum should be all three of us, that if the union rep didn't sit, there would be no point in proceeding with just two members. From my perspective, the decision was easy. It was that we would have to adjourn proceedings until the differences between the government and the unions, they work them out. The date for the hearing is adjourned, but there's no new date fixed. And if I recollect what Mr. Martinez said correctly, because I've looked at it again, they had indicated that unless the Prime Minister gave the union certain assurances, they wouldn't be proceeding with the commission. But they weren't bringing the thing to an end. So from my perspective, it's waiting to see what comes of that.
In his closing interview with the press, Chairman Marshall-elect insisted the inquiry is relevant and that it is clear that government officials are not following the rules of procurement or selling off of assets.
From my perspective, our purpose has not yet been served. I would like to, the Commission has thrown up some significant issues. There are rules of procurement that are being ignored with impunity. They pretend like it's just not there. I've been asking everybody where are the rules governing sales assets, and everybody pretends they are none. But there's quite a few pages in there dealing with sales. It's convenient to ignore them. They pretend like they're not there. And that...
Even the financial secretary said there are no such rules.
Yes, and the Auditor General I asked, and the Accountant General, and nobody in government seems to be adverting themselves to the fact that there do exist such rules. You know what's the first rule in the thing when I read them, Jules? There to be no sales to public officers. When you sell something to a public officer, it goes to a specially constituted 3-person committee to approve it. But when you look at the list of sales and what is taking place, it's all horrible. It doesn't even come close to meet any acceptable standard of financial prudence. And there is a complete disregard for these rules when it comes to managing assets. And I might add, there's a long history of spending without approval.
Coming up, the union is fired up about a lot of issues. You heard what Commissioner Martinez said inside. Now find out what PSU Vice President Dean Flowers had to say outside the House of Culture when News 5 comes back.
Hi, I'm Carmen. Have you heard about QR codes? Quick response codes, or QR codes as they are more popularly known, is a type of barcode that was created in 1994 for the Japanese automotive industry. They are similar to the barcodes you see on products at a supermarket or a store. It contains machine-readable information about the item. Unlike simple barcodes, QR codes are much safer because information is encrypted. Other advantages of QR codes are: it stores a large volume of data, it can be scanned from a screen, not just a paper, and it can also be read even if part of the code is damaged. eCash, powered by Belize Bank, will be a convenient and secure digital wallet solution with an embedded QR code scanner capability that will soon be on the market. You don't need to worry about any additional application to scan the QR codes, as it is available within the app. Let's explore the digital payments world. I currently live in Punta Gorda. My daughter Ashanti, who lives in Belize City, uses eCash to send me money within seconds. Ashanti no longer needs to worry about sending me physical cash via a friend or transferring money via a bank account, which will likely be available until the next day. I can now carry out my errands immediately. There is no need for cash when I go to the store, as I have the opportunity to make my payments by either scanning the static or dynamic QR code. Either way, the process is quick and simple. Buying my art supplies has never been easier, as now all my favorite stores accept eCash. By scanning the static QR code, I will then input my payment amount to pay the cashier, who then instantly receives the funds. Next up, supermarket. At the supermarket, I can purchase my supply of groceries for the week. This supermarket uses a dynamic QR code. With the dynamic QR code, the cashier generates a QR code on her mobile device and then shows me her screen so that I can scan to make payment. After scanning, I quickly verify the payment details and proceed to make payment. The cashier then instantly receives my payment. It's as easy as that. I can leave the store in minutes. When I arrive home, I can shop from my favorite vendor on any of the social mediums they have established. I won't have to scan a QR code, as the vendor will simply send me a payment link via WhatsApp, which will take me to the eCash app with the payment details. I will receive my order in no time. Next time, we will meet my friend John from San Ignacio, who will be going through the steps of bill payment and salary processing.
The digital payment revolution is here, and it's time to jump on board and welcome the awesome advantages that eCash has to offer for everyone.
Hi, I am Rosana Briseño. I am happy to see that the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine has begun all over our nation. If we are to get back to some kind of normalcy, if our golden citizens will be better protected, and if our children are to go back to school, then we need to get vaccinated. I believe in the COVID-19 vaccine, and when my turn comes around, I will get vaccinated. I urge you to take it too. #GetVaccinated_Belize.
It is my time
to protect your life.
Don't wait to vaccinate.
I believe in the COVID-19 vaccine.
The vaccine is the best way to protect lives.
Don't wait, vaccinate.
Don't hesitate, Belize.
Vaccinate.
Be COVID-19 safe. If you care, love them.
Protect them.
Vaccinate them.
Times have been challenging. Some days we feel vulnerable, scared, alone. The uncertainty of the future for our families lingers in our minds. But times like these brings out the best in all of us, revealing our resilience and strength, and bringing us together as a people, as a nation. Through partnership with the National Bank and Government of Belize, Digi developed its mobile pay solution, a safe, reliable, and convenient way for approved applicants of the Belize COVID-19 cash transfer program to collect their approved funds at any Digi store or National Bank of Belize location countrywide. Digi wants all Belizeans to know that you are not alone. We remain committed to delivering on the promise of advanced technology and innovative solutions that benefit Belizeans. instilling the hope of a brighter and better future amidst these challenging times. We are here for you.
Will a trade dispute also be filed against Public Service Minister Henry Charles Usher? On Wednesday, the joint unions team received a letter from the minister outlining the pay cut. We can tell you that it is not going to be 10% straight across the board for all public officers and teachers, but rather there will be a tiered pay cut. It says public officers and teachers making between $12,000 and $20,000 annually will get an 8% pay reduction, while those between $20,000 and $40,000 will get a 10% pay cut. Those above $40,000 will receive a 12% cut in their salaries. Housing and entertainment allowances will be reduced by 25%, and the increment freeze is for 3 years across the board. The unions are to respond by April 20th with a counter-proposal. After that, the ministry says he might decide to advise the Governor General to implement. PSU Vice President Dean Flowers is not happy and says the union rejects the proposal.
A letter came from, I believe, the Minister of Public Service, which threatens to tamper with the Belizean Constitution. Now, again, I must say the new administration seems to be pulling a script or every possible script out of the Barrow Black Book, because this is the same route that Barrow went down in April when we negotiated for an increment freeze. He threatened that he would amend the Constitution. Now, if the Belizean people don't understand that this Constitution is as sacred, is the second most sacred document apart from the Bible, if they don't understand that these people are going down a serious and dangerous road, then I guess we need to start calling for them to wake up. If someone is earning in excess of $40,000, $50,000, they would be cut 12%. That would be almost $600 to $700. $600 to $700. That could be the equivalent of a student loan for their children. That could be the equivalent of a small housing loan. For somebody like myself, that could be the equivalent of removing $200 in disposable income to purchase food from Miss Corrine or Mr. Timbrell at the market. So that's $200 that they will not see. That would be $600 whereby I am no longer able to support the peanuts and the pepitos man make away from San Antonio. The proposal does more harm to public officers than good. Whether or not he will evoke and tamper with the Constitution, that's yet to be seen. The Public Service Union mandate is clear. We reject that, we will stand against that, and we will resist that at all costs.
The union also received a letter from the Ministry of Labor, which Flowers says reneges on its responsibility to convene the tribunal on the trade dispute. The union is talking with its legal advisors, and Flowers says if necessary, a separate trade dispute will be filed with the Minister of the Public Service. First Vice President of the Public Service Union, Dean Flowers, also gave a comment on the recent land compensation judgment that was afforded to a company owned by Olivia Villanueva. In that judgment, the government has been ordered to pay Ivor Realty approximately $5.6 million for a 102-acre parcel of Turnip Island Range, which the company paid a little over $27,000 for back in 2008, also under a previous PUP government. Flowers ties this ruling to the Auditor General's failure to audit the hotbed of corruption, now known to be the Lands Department.
There should be riots in the street. People should be out here demanding justice. I keep saying that we're going through a period of economic injustice. economic injustice. It's not only the public officers that are suffering this, but the entire Belizean society is suffering from it. I think what we saw in that judgment is the reason why this country is in $4 billion in debt. Imagine if the Auditor General had executed timely audits of the Lands Department. Imagine what that $5.6 million would be looking like today.
Flowers also commented on reports that well-connected individuals owe taxes to GOB, but they are not held to the same standards as regular business people. He says the Prime Minister needs to read the regulations.
Eight people, 8 landowners are indebted to the government $62 million. So while the government is attacking 14,000 public officers, there are 8 Belizeans or 8 companies out there, only 8, that owe this government $62 million. The lands arrears is well in excess of $300 million. The tax arrears is well in excess of $486 million. And the best thing the government could do is to come after public officers, hard-working public officers who are to be considered human resource assets rather than enemies.
Flowers also commented on reports that well-connected individuals owe taxes to GOB, but they are not held to the same standards as regular business people. He says the Prime Minister needs to read the regulations.
The Prime Minister said the Belize tax services calculate tax arrears, or the manner in which they do that is out of whack. Every single business in Belize is judged, governed, assessed by the General Sales Tax Act and the Income Tax Act. Is it that the Prime Minister's sister comes from Animal Farm and not from the country of Belize? How is it that the Prime Minister can say his sister will not and should not pay what she has been assessed and what continues to accrue, but every other Belizean business out there must comply? And I am yet to hear from the private sector to condemn that inequality, that Animal Farm type mentality. I am yet to hear a statement from the Belize Tax Services to say, Mr. Prime Minister, as Minister of Finance, Lord man, GST is calculated on gross sales. You're on the news saying it's not. Come on, man. Make we read the law and understand we roll now. Or make we stick to what we know. Rather than we get on the media and speak about GST not being calculated. The law is clear. You pay GST on your gross sales if you're making $75,000 or more per year. So I would love to hear from the private sector.
After the break, fear of COVID, fear of crime, or worried about something else? Find out why the Belize Hotel Association says guests to the Jewel are suddenly canceling bookings made months ago. But first, here is a look at the latest COVID-19 figures.
or shine, any weather. When we go bold, we go burger. Quality paint, no faded colors. When we go bold, we go burger. Let your imagination run free. Any color for this place, when we say bold, that mean it don't peel. Quality in every color, lifetime guarantee. When we go bold, we go burger. When we go bold, we go burger. Rain or shine, any color you need. When we go bold, we go burger.
BWS launches its residential amnesty program to aid customers. For those who have fallen behind, you can now take advantage of our arrears assistance, which allows you to get up to 10% rebate on all arrears payment. Our early payment rebate is opened and is automatic to all residential customers who pay their bill in full 5 days earlier than the due date. You receive a 5% rebate on your next bill. BWS Amnesty Program, designed to assist you.
Belize Water Services, delivering water and more.
The contamination of water we all depend on is a very urgent issue. As Belize's popularity and industries grow, challenges increase. In this episode, we will examine the issue of water pollution in Belize. Water pollution is the contamination of water bodies, usually because of human activities. Water bodies include lagoons, rivers, aquifers, and oceans. On the marine side, the discharge of sewage and bilge water from cruise ships and other live-aboard vessels, in combination with unregulated development of coastal areas, has led to the degradation of marine ecosystems such as mangroves and coral reefs. Our inland waters are facing their own challenges. As agricultural development increases, pesticides, fertilizers, and waste products are running off into rivers. Increased river traffic from boat tours and sugar barges adds to the already stressful conditions of the freshwater ecosystems. In addition, companies that collect sewage sometimes dump the waste right into the waterways. Additionally, in densely populated areas like Belize City and Orangewa, poor sewage designs result in the contamination of groundwater and of water bodies by both sewage and wash water. In many cases, homes and businesses dump their wastewater directly into drains, which leads to rivers and the sea. Wastewater, detergents, and petroleum collect in drains that empty into waterways, such as the New River and the Belize River. This, along with the runoff and discharges from the agricultural and industrial businesses, have been inadequately monitored and enforced. The answers to overcoming water pollution issues are fourfold: improved infrastructure, adequate treatment, increased legislation and monitoring, and of course, changing our habits for the better. While it is urgent that better management on a policy level is needed, there are a few things we can do at home to help. Ensure proper treatment systems are installed for all wastewater at your home and business. Don't dispose of oil from your automobiles or cooking and household detergents down the drain. And lastly, minimize the usage of chemicals and fertilizers and report any dumping into waterways to the Department of the Environment. The government has recognized the threat of inadequate liquid waste management and is working toward goals of reducing and reversing its effects. For more information on what's being done about water pollution and ways you can help, visit our website at doe.gov.bz. I'm Alison Castillo, and now you know.
As the situation becomes more volatile and the unions threaten with strike action, international tourists have become wary of their travel plans to the Jewel. And it is already being reflected at some resorts and hotels across the country. The Easter weekend saw a record number of tourists arriving in Belize, surpassing the figures of 2019. But today, the president of the Belize Hotel Association, Ted Tejada, reported to News 5 that there have been an increasing number of cancellations already due to the late dispute between GOB and the unions.
We have already started to receive cancellations. Hotels are reporting that rooms that have been booked for future months, people are already starting to cancel, not because of COVID, not because of the vaccination, but because what they're hearing about the country of Belize. Every single tourist that is going to travel, they're doing their proper research. They're researching, does a country like Belize, do they require vaccines? Do they require an app to download? Every country has a new regulation. So they are researching before they travel. And now they're finding out that the unions are announcing 21 days where they have said that there will be some type of action. No tourist wants to come to a country that is locked down.
The BHA president, Ted Tejada, is appealing to both government and the unions to return to the discussion table to resolve the impasse because it threatens to further cripple the economy and the country, which is already in a fragile state.
The country is in a financial problems right now, and that comes with as well with some challenges. We are now hearing that the unions are not accepting or not coming in agreement with the government. The government needs to find some type of how do we merge this, because COVID has damaged the economy of this country. That is what we as hoteliers are coming to government and saying we need to find a solution to this problem, because what COVID has done to us, what we will see if there's an impasse and the services of the country are limited because the nurses are not going to be working, or they're blocking the highway or whatever, that is just going to cripple the tourism industry going forward.
While changes to statutory instrument number 43 of 2021 extending weekend curfew hours is no doubt welcomed by some, there has been a swift response from the sporting community, many of whom are outraged they are still not being factored into the relaxing of COVID-19 guidelines. Casinos and gambling establishments that is, are now allowed to open, but no mention is made in the SI of any amendments to the ban of sporting activities. While non-contact sports are currently permitted, contact sports athletes are still being sidelined. Over the past 24 hours, a number of athletes have taken to social media to voice their discontent. One member of the Belize national volleyball selection, Brighton Codd, says upcoming tournaments have caused him to speak out.
From the very onset, I want to make it unequivocally clear that we have not been training or practicing since last year when the lockdown began. And that's because of the pandemic, of course. However, when there was a decrease in the numbers, we were allowed to play back for about a month under strict regulations. And so the regulations and abiding by that as athletes, we have done this before. So we know exactly how to continue doing this with the pandemic. And now that the numbers are going down, we were thinking they were going to ease some of the restrictions to allow us to train again, because we all have tournaments that we must attend this year. We've already missed an entire year from not playing sports because of the pandemic. And I think the opening of casinos, where we could clearly say that it's a health hazard because of the central air conditioning system, there's not proper ventilation, people will be smoking in casinos, drinking, you're going to be touching machines that other people are touching, and so there has to be consistent sanitization. We have already done all these things in the athletics world to show that we can continue to play sports, and we are not even being considered by the government. And what is even more mind-boggling is the fact that we're not being communicated to as athletes by the government, even though we have sent in our health regulation guidelines that we want to implement for our sports.
We reached out to the Minister of Sports, Youth and E-Governance, Kevin Bernard, who told us he will be available for comment on Friday. Codd says some athletes are so incensed they are planning a protest in front of the Princess Casino. He says that the sporting community wants to send a clear message to the government of Belize about how serious they are about their disciplines.
Right now, the athletes are very enraged, they are infuriated. Tomorrow, actually, we are going in our jerseys to the Princess Casino to make a statement, because the casinos are open. That's a breeding ground for the spread of the coronavirus. And even in open areas like this, some of us are not being allowed to play, and we are not being allowed to train. And we want for the government to understand that as athletes, we take our craft seriously, and we want for them to take us seriously as well.
Speak to what is it that you're asking of the government of Belize.
We are asking for the government two things. We either be allowed to practice or train under the strict regulations that have been submitted by our federations, or two, get our athletes vaccinated, because we are ready to get back to training.
When we return, investors claim their plans were delayed, derailed, cut down, and switched around. The controversy at Commerce Bite just ahead, so stay with us.
The hypocrisy of the UDP is unreal. This is the same man who called teachers incompetent and said they were pedophiles and child molesters. Now suddenly he loves the teachers? Mr. Faber, we would not be in this position today if you hadn't stood in solidarity with this man, and this man, and this man. You were a part of the UDP that stole from the people. You were a part of the hustling and corruption and greed, and now you say you support teachers? You are nothing but a big joke. This is not the time for petty politics, for games or grandstanding. The country is in crisis, and it is only in working together constructively that we will get through this. Stand in solidarity with Belize and for Belize.
Hello? Okay, sure, I'll be there. Hello?
Hi, Mommy. When are you coming home? I really miss you.
Hearing the voice of our loved ones can always lift our spirits and make us feel whole again. With Smart's twice as nice promotion, prepaid customers who make 5 minutes worth of national calls on Sundays can enjoy 50% off. Top double on all national calls for the rest of the day. Call your loved ones and enjoy half off all day long. Smart, bringing people together.
2020 taught us the importance of being connected to the virtual world, and NextGen is here to keep its commitment to you. Even if you're physically apart, NextGen keeps you digitally connected.
Okay everyone, thank you for following me today.
NextGen provides more than just an internet plan. They provide service plans that support all your online needs. Sign up today and get your NextGen's ultra high-speed internet service. NextGen, powered by Central TV and Internet.
Why, Tony?
Why, kid, what are you going on, man?
But actually, because you because I need to buy a stack of them plastic plates and cups for my grocery shop because I run low.
Boy, I stopped importing that thing since April 15th, you know. And I just ran out of the last batch, must have been like 3 weeks back, you know.
Man, do I usually have anything? What are you going on?
Check this, right? Under the new law, we ban all single-use plastics, so that the cups, plates, forks, spoons, and knives, all of that. Since April 15th, can't import none of them. Starting January 15, 2021, you can't manufacture them. April 15, 2021, you can't sell them. And after July 14, 2021, if you get catch with any other thing, you will get fined.
Me never know this. I guess I have to make some changes then. I have to make the customers know that anything not available. Anyways, bro. Thanks, man.
No problem, man. Take care.
A pair of siblings came forward today with a bold claim that they have been swindled out of a $2 million investment in Commerce Byte by former area representative Frank Papamena and Dr. Peter Allen, an ex-CEO under the Barrow administration. Brothers Abraham and Heinrich Froese are local shareholders in Recological Systems Limited, which was founded in 2018. The company was established primarily for the purpose of offshore oil exploration near Dangriga. This was done through a partnership with Alan Gobi, the managing director of RSL, who subsequently ended up transferring the Froese's shares to another company called P Projects, represented by Paul Martin. According to the brothers, when they began investigating the company that they had invested in, it was discovered that Gobi was merely a front for RSL, whose true owners are reportedly Mena and Allen.
We had tried with Commerce Byte from 2008 to find out what the possibilities were for opening Commerce Byte for bulk exports, because grain needs bulk, cheap prices. So that was the first fact that attracted us. And we contacted Gobi. He was more into oil, which we were fine with that, because it would evolve into what we would eventually want, is what our understanding was. And we've started investing on the agreement that we would be 50% shareholder with Recological Systems. It was hard to get the share transfer certificates. We feel there was interference at the registry, which was above our head. We've fought hard to get to 50%. It was finally, eventually, through when the government changed, that we were able to get the 33% and not the 50%. So the interference was real at the registry. We know it was. We forced the shares to come through. We had a lawyer to do it, and we found out that Alan Gobi had sold or transferred 76% of the shares already to P Projects. That left only the 33%, which at that point we were able finally to transfer into Bel Caribe. When P Projects came and took control of the other shares, we have never again heard. We've requested, we've never heard, we've never had the decency of an answer from them. It was just a complete lockdown. So basically from late 2019, we don't know what happened. We found out that just lately that they had a signed license. They had a license on Commerce Byte Port. We had our doubts. We started investigating, and we found out that it was not really, Gobi was not the real player in this. There was other people controlling it, and at that point he had to let go.
The new principals of RSL, a company out of Houston, Texas, known as C1, have reportedly entered into a power purchase agreement with BEL for the generation of electricity from Commerce Byte. It's an investment that is said to be worth $50 million US. RSL's country representative is Brandon Raymond. According to Indira Mejia, who spoke this morning on Froese's behalf, the property to which the pipeline will be fed from the Commerce Byte jetty is owned by the former area rep for Dangriga.
Of interest is a parcel of land directly behind the Commerce Byte port. And from the paper trail that I have just shared with one member of the media, that land is owned by the former area representative of Dangriga, and that is where the power plant is to be set up. So he will benefit directly once that power plant is set up on that parcel of land that he acquired from the government of Belize. We're not certain of the number of acreages, but it's directly behind the Commerce by Port does not have the necessary amount of land for the size of the project that C11 wants. So the former area representative acquired lands directly behind it, and we have been given from the former owner, Alan Bobey, that was the initial plan, that he would acquire the lands and that the power project would be set up there. The main reason for for getting the Commerce by Port was that the pipelines for the LPG would have to run from out of the mooring that would be set up at sea and through the Commerce by Port and onto that property, which is closer to the Mile 3 power station in Dangriga. So that's another thing that has been bugging Mr. Cruz, that they have invested $2 million and they haven't gotten back any returns on their $2 million, and to find out that they were secretly, they are secretly in a business deal with people they never met and sat with or consented to be in business with them.
According to Mejia and the Frozes, RSL was granted a 25-year lease for Commerce Byte by the outgoing administration just 2 days prior to the November 11th general elections. That lease, she says, is under review by government. Furthermore, Mejia asserts that RSL does not have an office or a bank account in Belize. Neither does C1.
RSL at this moment, because we are aware that the 25-year lease, which was signed 2 days prior to the election, never tabled at the House of Representatives, is under review. And we understand from the Cruzes that RSL is claiming hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages that they have invested in that port. And to date, the only thing that has been invested in that port is the fixture of a security booth and a gate. And as we speak, RSL does not have a bank account. The bank account is in the name of Paul Martin. A $50 million investment, US dollars investment, and they don't even have a proper bank account. So it raises a lot of questions as to what is the real purpose of RSL. And well, C1, there is nobody, no office, nothing in Belize for C1. So we can't get any answers as to what from C1 and what is their objective and what is it that they want with the port.
Children have a right to an education, even in times of emergencies. Today, UNICEF, in collaboration with the National Emergency Management Organization, facilitated a training with 15 disaster shelter managers. As a part of the training, participants were taught how to identify areas where continued learning in disaster situations can be facilitated. Participants reviewed the standards of establishing child-friendly learning spaces and materials that can be used if a disaster does occur. Early Childhood Development Education Officer at UNICEF, Denise Robatou, says the training comes after the establishment of emergency protocols.
UNICEF, we are so excited about the training. It's a humanitarian training for emergency responders, humanitarian actors, and we're doing it in partnership with NEMO. We're working with municipalities, emergency responders in municipalities, to just help them to understand more about the rights of children in emergencies. So the humanitarian actors today are learning about the protocols for the integrated protection of children and adolescents in emergencies and in disaster situations. Last year, we launched the national protocols with NEMO after a year of consultations, after a year of reviews, and even partnership with SEDEMA to look at the different sectors that we respond in emergencies. When we talk about sectors, we're talking about education, early childhood development, water, sanitation, hygiene, nutrition, just to name a few. And so, what are the standards and what are the commitments to the vulnerable population, such as boys and girls and women and people with disabilities during the times of emergencies?
Just ahead, meet the Pod Squad, Belize's podcasting influencers. Paul Lopez gives you a glimpse into this growing internet phenomenon when we return. But first, here is the weather forecast with data from the Belize Met Service.
As a new mom, there are moments of pride, joy, and doubt. Yes, doubt. Has he slept enough? Does she have everything that she needs? Will she be okay in the sun? These doubts come from love. For the good of baby, 2 servings of Nestum are full of all the goodness and naturalness of the cereals that your baby needs to blossom. That's one less thing to worry about. Nestum, it's all good, Mom.
Learn more online with Nestle Baby and Me.
Hello, Belize. You may not be aware of the new travel requirements set in place by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. Passengers traveling to the U.S. must present a negative COVID test or a documentation of having recovered from COVID-19 to travel to the U.S. In light of this, Maya, in partnership with Caring Hands Clinic, have established testing centers in all their municipal airports. Caring Hands Antigen Test Center is operational in San Pedro, Belize City, Dangrega, Placencia, and Hopkins. These testing facilities are staffed by licensed healthcare professionals, including doctors, registered nurses, and nurse practitioners. Testing is done using Abbott rapid test devices that are FDA approved and made in the USA. The service is safe, fast, affordable, and the close proximity of the centers makes them convenient. Walk-ins are welcomed, but appointments are encouraged. If you would like to make an appointment, please feel free to do so at Make your appointment, get tested, and in 15 minutes, you can get back to your vacation.
Es un hecho que puedes obtener servicios ilimitados con Smart. ¿Cansado de que se corte la línea cuando más necesitas estar conectado? Es un hecho que cuando te suscribes al plan de Smart Plus, obtienes llamadas, textos y datos ilimitados. Y también es un hecho que te puedes suscribir con un grupo de 5 miembros al plan Smart Share y hasta 40 miembros al plan Smart Enterprise para llamadas, textos y datos ilimitados. Smart tiene los verdaderos planes ilimitados. Es un hecho. Sé Smart y vive de forma Smart.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
Our grandparents got their news and information from Radio Belize and the Beacon newspaper. The next generation benefited from independent television stations and more varied radio and newspaper choices. Today's young people tap into social media and live stream as citizen journalists. But somewhere in between, connecting the past, present, and the future of Belizean media are the podcasters. This small band of independent influencers takes on everything from political controversy to potluck cuisine. But whether they upload content every week or simply whenever they feel like it, podcasters are blurring the lines between broadcast genres. This week, News 5's Paul Lopez went in search of the Belizean Pod Squad.
Hey, welcome to the podcast for the week of March the 15th. Well, when the PUP won the general election on November 11th, 2020, I heard a few people comment that it was like getting back together with an ex-lover. An ex that you had good reason to dump back in the day, and after all these years later, likely hasn't changed.
Meet Brent Toombs of Brent's 2 Cents, the semi-serious thoughts of a guy in Belize. From his studio in Belize City, Toombs pushes all the hot-button news headlines.
I started my podcast in July, so I've been doing this for just a little less than a year now.
Toombs, a former news cameraman who now has his own production company, is part of a new wave of Belizean podcasting that includes Dominique Norales. She is young, independent thinking, and started her podcast on Anchor FM during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Hi everyone, this is Dominique Norales. There has been something that has been on my mind since I found out about it. And I wrote about it in my column, Musings by the Curious Nonconformist. The name of my podcast is Walasaha. It's a Garinaga word. So it's not Walasaha. It's Walasaha. So it has
Walasaho.
Yeah, that's okay.
What does it mean?
It means our search.
I just hit record. We're in the Natasha Stewart podcast.
And then there is Natasha Stewart on Apple Podcasts. Stewart is based on Hamburger's Key in the town of San Pedro. She uses her platform to engage with inspirational stories and inspirational Belizeans.
Why podcast? Because also like in the pandemic, when everything was kind of becoming really chaotic towards the beginning, people were just posting on their Facebook statuses and having these panic reactions, and I became one of them, and I was like, this isn't how I want to contribute to the people around me or in my life or anything. So I was like, I need to like channel my energy somewhere else, and I read a lot of books, and I also I listen to audiobooks as well, not just like physical books, but I listen to books as well. But I figured from those books, I learned that, you become who you spend most of your time with. So I was like, well, I'm going to go and find people who inspire me.
Ranisha S. Gentle and the Gentle Perspective on Anchor FM and YouTube takes a different approach. Gentle is a final year student at University of the West Indies, majoring in political science.
I enjoy talking about politics, and for most people that isn't the most ideal topic to discuss, but I find it very informative and intriguing, and especially for us as young people, we need to be within the nitty-gritty of this, because we're the quote unquote the future, right? So all my episodes surround politics, policy, and other social issues that not only Belize is going through, but also the Caribbean. And I try my hardest to tie it in.
The community of Belizean podcasters is relatively small, but this allows them to connect more intimately, to share tips and advice.
And the fact that so many other people are starting to do their own podcasts, and they've reached out to me and said, hey, I heard your podcast. I'm thinking about doing something myself. Can you give me a few tips? And that's really what I'm hoping that we will see with podcasting, is that this will become something that a lot of Belizeans will get into producing their own podcasts, because the more Belizeans who produce podcasts, then more Belizeans will start listening to podcasts.
It's not a very large pool of us, but it's a substantial enough pool to know that, okay, Belizeans know what podcasts are and we're creating it. So you have people like Brent's 2 Cents, who focuses on news. You have two Teaspoons of Belize, who focuses on comedy and yet still focuses on Belizean politics. Like, there are different strokes for different folks. But I think it's growing in the Belizean population. I think it's a great space for us to remain connected to each other no matter what borders exist.
Podcasting has been in existence since the 1980s. At that time, it was called audio blogging. However, it really began to catch on in 2004 with the advent of the iPod. Today, there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there on numerous platforms covering a wide variety of topics. Paul Schmidt III told us why more Belizeans should engage in locally produced podcasts.
It gives a diversity of opinion of what's happening. There are different genres, so it could be that somebody wants to start a podcast about cooking. It could be somebody wants to start a podcast simply about anything from going Pokemon hunting. So even young people can get involved, and they can definitely form or start a community out of that. And some people want to connect. So it's just one different way of connecting.
The trend of podcasting is fairly new to Belize, though it is popular everywhere else in the world. But I do believe that if we really want to be well-rounded and be a bit more dynamic, we need to come out of the boundaries that we have here within our communities to say, look, there are other things out there available. And I didn't know there is a podcast for every single genre you can think about. Gospel, hip-hop, books, everything under this sun.
And don't forget to subscribe to all the great Belizean podcasts on your favorite app so you never miss an episode from any of us.
Reporting for News 5, I am Paul Lopez.
And that's the news. Tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Sabrina Daly. Thanks for joining us, and from all of us here at News 5, please remember to wash your hands, keep your social distance, and stay safe. Good night. Speaking about land, Flower says that the government is prepared to cut the salaries of public officers when there are hundreds of millions of dollars in arrears and taxes that have not been collected at the Ministry of Natural Resources. So, is there an option that the Briceño administration can look into?